Hey Jay, here we got a fun comparison for you today. We have a 2020 KTM 350 SXF and a 2018 350 XCF. We throw a headlight on here just for kicks and giggles. Doesn't really work. We've done projects with both these bikes and they both have similar modifications. So what we did, this bike was always a trail bike. You know, we added the headlight to give us a little added trail look. But other than that, it's the same bike that we did with the Racer X just a while back. And that the 350 SXF, this bike, even though it looks red, it's not a Honda, it is a KTM. We get guys beating us up. It's a gas looking bike. And after we were done with the motocross action test, we figured, hey, let's see what it would be like to trail ride this thing this summer, because we had a bunch of trail rides coming up. So we added the IMS big tank, ProMoto billet kickstand. Billetproof Designs makes a little knuckle guard at the bottom. We got a Tusk rotor guard at the back for the rear rotor. We added, also Billetproof has a little swing arm guard. We got that added on there. We already had a skid plate, which was good from P3. Even though it's their kind of race one, we went ahead and left it on there for this. And a Trail Tech fan. Now, to give you a little feedback on the fan first, let's talk about the fan. Neither one of these bikes make enough power, wattage-wise. When you talk to Trail Tech and guys who really check all this stuff out, they don't make enough power to really run these fans correctly and leave yourself enough reserves. We've gotten into trouble once on the SXF. We didn't have this bike out that day. We got into really tight stuff, and the fan was just cranking all the time, and we were having to start the bike a ton of times. So the fan on these bikes, it's supposed to be like a 30-watt fan, and the bike makes 25 watts or something like that when they get all the details from those guys. But basically, if you're going to run a fan on it, we've been bumping it up to 190 degrees to keep it from coming on quite as often. And then also, there's no kickstart backups. We want to be careful with that. So the fan on this bike is a good idea to keep it cool, but long term, I think on either bike, if you're really, really tight stuff, you might look at a stator upgrade to power the fan, and then you could look at doing a headlight as well at the same time, do something like that. So when we got this bike converted kind of to our trail machine for the summer, we added handguards so that we'd be kind of equal. Like I said, both these things have the same mods. We've got modified motors, everything, but they're both kind of the same. And the biggest differences we're noticing is, what we've come to realize is that this XCF 2018, or even if it was the 2019 version, which is 19 and 20 are updated, the XCF just kind of tends to be a better bike. Obviously, it's intended for trails. So what the answer is this is the winner. Kind of, it still does so good on the track. And the main reason we like it better is that the transmission, that it's not just the added gear, but the different ratios. Even when we're on the, we're both side by side on some dirt roads, we're riding dirt roads. And even when you're in third gear, we're only going like 30, 40 miles an hour, just back and forth, not even probably 30, 35, right? Just on these dirt roads side by side. And this bike, you don't have to shift as much. So that's really nice. And then on the trails, you don't have to shift as much as you do on the SXF. So the XCF is just way better for that. Now, with all that said, what I think this bike, the SXF, if you have a 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 350 SXF, and you want to convert it to a trail bike, and I think it can still be a great trail bike. I really do. So if you already have one, or you get a really good deal on one, because it's hard to find a good deal on a 350 XCF. So if you get a really good deal on one and you want to convert one, put a big tank on it, do a few of these mods, I think you'll be just fine. The only place you're going to suffer is maybe on those like connector roads where you're shifting more than you'd like. We have a 51 rear 2 sprocket on here, and it seems plenty good on the tight trails. I don't know that we stall either bike any more than the other. What do you think? I don't know that we stall any one more than the other. We have our good mapping in on our vortexes from Jamie, and so those seem to be somewhat reduced. And suspension. This has the stock AER forks. This is the 350 XCF, has the stock AER 48 millimeter forks that have been redone by Race Tech, and they feel great on the track. We noticed it at Glen Helen how great they felt, and I think they're as good as about any fork conversion or cone valves we've done. So it all has to do with setting, and I think you can have a great setting from someone like Race Tech or Factory Connection to set up your stock AER 48 forks. We have KYB conversion in the SXF bike. Now this bike was set up for motocross, so it's not comparing apples to apples as far as suspension, but it's pretty dang good. But for the cost of the conversion kit, I think you could put that money just into revalving your stock stuff and be just fine. We're getting to see that we really like the stock air fork when it's been modified, and Racetech has done a great job for us on this bike. Anything else we could think of? It was a fun testing these things back and forth. We've taken them out a few times over the last week and a half, and they're just amazing, fun bikes. And I've been a 300 two-stroke guy for a long time now, and I'm still riding the 300, don't get me wrong. But it's been fun to ride these bikes on a little bit more of the open trails. It's really fun, and it's good for fat, lazy guy, where you don't have to, in some places, try as hard as you would on the 300, where now when you do get stuck, it's a little bit more bike to push around and get around than on the two-stroke 300. I still won't be getting rid of my 300, so you know that. So, fun comparison of these two bikes. You can see we rode them in some really cool terrain in Utah and Idaho on all kinds of cool trails. You can see we went all over the place. Spencer rode them, I rode them, had a couple of our buddies ride them, and most kind of felt the same thing, that the 350 SXF is a great bike, and you can convert it to trail, and I think we find, and it boils down to, if you have one and you don't want to spend the money, you don't want to lose money selling it and getting rid of it, and you're not going to get enough for it, you could look at converting it to a trail bike instead. So that's something you could do. And again, if you can find any of these 350 XCFs, 16, 17, 18, they give you a little history. So 16 is the same bike as this bike, but it has different forks. It has the 4CS forks. Don't want those. But if you've got a good deal on the bike, you could do that and get the suspension, get a conversion kit done, or something like KYB conversion kit for it, but you'd have to get it pretty cheap. So that could be an option. Or you could find a set of air forks guys are selling that some guys don't want them, they got cone valve or whatever, you could do that. So if you find a good deal on a 16, don't be afraid of that. Then 17 and 18 are the same, and then 19, 20, and the 21 are all going to be similar deals with the engine updates. Small updates. We think this, and I've talked to other builders, to Jamie at Twisted, the 16, 17, 18 motor is a little bit snappier, faster, and modified with the same mods. It just seems a little smoother and easier to ride even. Feels pretty good. I forget anything? What'd you think? Spencer had fun on any of them. I think he's going to have fun on, he's going to say anything's awesome when he's riding, because they're all fun, right? That's the way he kind of feels. So, I kind of agree with him. We're on good bikes, and it's hard to say one's worse than the other. But on the trail, this 350 XCF is pretty rad. And the SXF, if you didn't have them to compare against, you would think it was the best thing in the world. If you just rode this, you would think this thing's incredible. It's the best. Until you got on this, and you go, oh, this one's a little bit better, with it not having to shift as much. So that's really the main big difference in these bikes. And really fun time out riding this. I hope you enjoy some of the scenery of our riding, and enjoy. We'll leave you with a little bit of footage, and hopefully we'll see you out at the track or trail soon.